Well, President Donald Trump didn't waste any time following through on some of his campaign promises, but experts say his executive order this week to proceed with a 3,200-kilometer wall at the U.S.-Mexico border is likely to encounter a lot of legal and logistical hurdles in Southern California, where large sections of a barrier already exist. The plight of undocumented migrants there remaining a serious humanitarian concern for many people. VOA's Ramon Taylor has our report.
If a 10 to 12 meter wall is built along the U.S.-Mexico border as President Trump intends, it will stretch from the Gulf of Mexico to the Pacific Ocean, its westernmost point.
Sadly, people try to go around the wall, swimming in the Pacific Ocean or in little fishing boats, and they drown.
As the founder of Border Angels, Enrique Morones dedicates his efforts to assisting migrants along the southern border, including those who suffer from dehydration in the desert, the #1 cause of death among migrants on both sides of the line.
This wall of Operation Gatekeeper from 1994 has led to the death of more than 11,000 people.
President Trump says the wall is badly needed to deter illegal immigration from Central America. But where barriers don't currently exist is largely treacherous terrain, monitored by aerial technology.
If people have the impression that the border is totally open, that's a false impression. You know, we have about 600 miles of border fencing. Most of it's pretty formidable, but then there are natural barriers. I mean, there are places where there are 11,000-foot peaks in the border, like in El Altar, which is a common clandestine crossing point in Arizona, and it's exceedingly dangerous to go across there.
So, is it really a good idea to build a wall at the border? And what would that accomplish? Well, to help us out with those questions and more, I'm joined once again by VOA White House correspondent Cindy Sain. Thank you for sticking around. And we're also joined remotely by VOA Spanish service reporter Arturo Martinez in Los Angeles. It's good to have both of you on the show. Thank you so much. Cindy, so 1 week into Donald Trump's presidency, we're already involved in a potentially a major trade war in the making here with Mexico's president Enrique Peña Nieto canceling a scheduled meeting with the president next week. What happened?
That's right, Mil. Well, we've seen a bit of a Twitter standoff with, of course, President Trump signing this executive order calling for the building of a massive structure along the U.S. southern border with Mexico. And then he has stressed all throughout his campaign that Mexico would pay for it. And Mexican President Peña Nieto has said, of course, we will not pay for this wall. We don't believe in walls. You know, this is not helping our relationship at all.
So as a result, that statement was followed by another tweet.
That was followed by another tweet with President Trump saying that, and they were supposed to meet on Tuesday.
Right.
Mexican president was coming to the White House, and they were going to talk about trade and NAFTA and a lot of important issues. And then President Trump said, well, if Mexico is not going to pay for the wall, then it's no use even coming. And then President Peña Nieto tweeting saying that we've informed the White House that we're not coming.
Because he doesn't really have much choice in terms of face saving to do anything else.
Right, that put him in a very difficult position at home.
You know, I'm hearing that this, get used to it, this Twitter diplomacy is a sign of things to come. Is this something that we should learn to expect?
Well, this has alarmed many, also people in the Republican Party. The conservative Wall Street Journal is talking about President Trump's dirty little war with Mexico and saying, you know, we have so many serious issues to face. This is a totally unnecessary and self-inflicted little crisis here with our next-door neighbor, Mexico.
So Arturo, let me get you in this conversation. As you heard from our report, Trump's border wall would be more than 3,000 kilometers long and span 4 states. Now, much of California's border where you are with Mexico is already walled off. Now, how effective has that wall been in at least keeping undocumented immigrants out of California?
Well, actually, as you say, there's on the U.S. border, there's 1,000 kilometers border already built. Already a wall on those 1,000 kilometers from 3,000 that this southern border measures. So actually these undocumented immigrants that are crossing, that's not their main way of crossing, because as we heard, it's very dangerous, it's very hazardous. The only places where there's not a wall is where nature is very aggressive. There's desert, there's water, so they're risking their lives. And actually most of the undocumented immigrants come through normal border entries. They come with normal visa, temporary visas, and they overstay their visas. So that's actually not their main way of coming in through this places where there's not even a wall.
So they're risking their lives to do this, Arturo. What do Mexicans and Latinos really feel about building this wall? Do they think it's necessary? Do they suggest other ways of perhaps limiting the number of illegals who come through that wall?
Yes, definitely. They feel this is just a symbolic measure that Donald Trump wants to throw. Because I've been to the border, I've been speaking with people as well, and even people that support Donald Trump but that live around the border, they know it's not helping that much.
Right.
It's not gonna really slow the immigrants, undocumented migrants coming, because they know they come through normal points of entry.
That's right.
So they feel concerned, not so much because of the border, but because of this political and trade issues that are rising now.
And you know, the questions that always come up, Cindy, is who is really going to pay for this wall? Now, candidate Trump has always insisted that Mexico would pay for it. But his answer these days is a lot more nuanced, we've noticed. ABC's David Muir had an exclusive interview with President Trump this week. Let's have a listen to what he says about who's going to pay for this, and I'll ask you both to tell me what you think.
There will be a payment. It will be in a form, perhaps a complicated form. And you have to understand, what I'm doing is good for the United States. It's also going to be good for Mexico. We want to have a very stable, very solid Mexico.
Cindy, is it really realistic to think that Mexico would actually pay for a wall that it doesn't want, that it has rejected from day one?
No. And this is going to cost somewhere between $12 and $20 billion. And the president, as you say, has now said that the U.S. will put the money up front and then Mexico will reimburse, saying it could be some sort of complicated payment measure. And I think the administration is looking at possibly cutting aid from all different departments to Mexico, but I don't think that would amount to anywhere near the sum that the wall is projected to cost.
And make an enemy out
and
of it.
Congressional leaders are saying that they will approve it, though.
And Arturo, I don't have a lot of time here, but I just want to ask you this. Is there any scenario that you can imagine where Mexico could be persuaded to pay for even a part of this wall?
Well, Mexico is definitely under pressure because President Enrique Peña Nieto knows that about 80% of Mexican exports go to the U.S. and only 16% of U.S. exports go to Mexico. So definitely Mexico has more pressure on his side, but he also has a lot of pressure from internal politics, celebrities, artists that are pushing him to stay firm against Donald Trump's and his way of dealing with Mexico.
It's going to be an interesting political situation as this continues. Thank you so much, Arturo, and thank you, Cindy, for working with us on two segments.